The Sangha gathered beneath the ancient bodhi tree, its branches swaying gently in the cool evening breeze. Disciples arranged themselves in silence, their faces reflecting concern and curiosity about life's uncertainties. Among them, Ananda sat quietly, his heart heavy with doubt that clouded his spiritual journey. Buddha observed his followers with a serene countenance, his gaze soft yet penetrating. Slowly, he began to speak. Doubt, he said, is a veil that obscures the brilliance of the truth awaiting beyond. His voice carried compassion, resonating deeply in the hearts of his listeners. And silence enveloped the assembly. Ananda bowed low before speaking, his voice trembling slightly. Master, my mind struggles under the weight of its doubts. The river, he continued, does not stop when it meets a boulder. It flows around it, adapting its course. I nodded slowly, trying to grasp the meaning of his words, though doubt still clouded my mind. The Buddha stretched his hand toward a nearby lotus flower swaying in the breeze. Ananda, he said, observe this lotus. The disciples turned their eyes to the flower, intrigued yet uncertain about its deeper meaning. The lotus grows in the mud, continued the Buddha, yet it rises, unstained, toward the sun. This flower does not battle the mud, nor does it reject its roots, for they nourish its growth, Buddha explained. Ananda nodded slowly, his furrowed brow softening, though the cloud of doubt still lingered in his mind. The Sangha listened intently, their breaths held as though they feared to break the moment. Buddha turned his gaze to Ananda directly and said, doubt arises from attachment to outcomes, a mind entangled in imagined fears. But Master, I said, how can I find such resilience when my fears feel insurmountable and my strength diminishes? The Buddha smiled gently, as if he understood the turmoil within me, and his words felt like a balm to my soul. Fear, he said, is like a shadow that grows when the mind focuses on the darkness. Forgetting the presence of light, he reached for a small lantern beside him, lighting it with deliberate care, as if to illustrate the point he was about to make. Even the smallest light, the Buddha said, holding the lantern aloft, can dispel the deepest darkness. Within you lies such a light. His words stirred something within me, a flicker of hope amidst the despair. Though doubt still lingered at the edges of my mind, his words sought to shake the foundation of my resolve. Buddha's eyes flickered with a light that suggested he had long since conquered those lingering shadows. Begin, he said, by accepting the storm as part of your journey, not as an obstacle but as a teacher. He pointed to the distant mountains, their peaks shrouded in mist, and spoke with a conviction that made his words feel eternal. I sat unshaken, for I recognized the doubts as illusions fed by fear, not the truth of my being. Ananda felt the beginnings of understanding stirring in the recesses of his troubled heart. Fear feeds doubt, continued the Buddha, and doubt feeds separation from the present moment, the here and now. The Sangha shifted slightly, their collective understanding deepening as they absorbed the Master's words. Ask yourself, Ananda, is the root of your doubt reality, or is it the shadow of fear? Buddha inquired. Ananda lowered his head, reflecting deeply on the Buddha's question, seeking the strength to untangle his thoughts. Buddha, observing Ananda's struggle, reached for a handful of sand and let it trickle slowly through his fingers. Do you see this sand, Ananda? Buddha asked gently, his eyes glimmering with tender wisdom. Yes, Master, Ananda replied, his voice barely above a whisper, his focus unwavering on the falling grains of sand. Each grain, said the Buddha, represents a thought. Alone, they are light, insignificant, but together, they may feel insurmountable. Ananda's eyes reflected a flicker of insight at the metaphor. Do not be afraid of these grains, said the Buddha, for they cannot harm you unless you allow them to bury you. His hands folded gently in his lap, his presence radiating serenity that seemed to touch the very air around them. The mind creates stories, Buddha said, but truth lies in the stillness beyond. You may choose to be the river's current or its stillness, Buddha continued, for both are within you. Ananda listened intently, though the shadow of doubt within him resisted its dissolution entirely. Stillness is not the absence of movement, Buddha said, but the presence of clarity amidst uncertainty. Buddha's gaze fell upon a lantern hung nearby, casting flickering light onto the assembly. Imagine this lantern, said Buddha, its light soft yet unwavering, as if guarding against the dark. The disciples followed his gesture, their hearts and minds absorbing the analogy with profound reverence. Buddha continued speaking. When the wind of doubt sways the flame, does the lantern cease to illuminate? Buddha inquired with his steady tone. No, Master, came a reply from among the Sangha, echoing the shared realization resonating within the group. Indeed, Buddha affirmed, doubt sways, but faith, when kindled, burns steadily. Ananda raised his head slowly, his heart touched by Buddha's words, though the shadow within him still loomed. What shall I do, Master? Ananda asked softly. If this shadow refuses to leave me, no matter my efforts? Buddha smiled, his calm aura undisturbed by the depth of Ananda's struggle. Welcome the shadow, replied Buddha, for it is only an illusion seeking truth's light to dissolve its confusion. The Sangha stirred softly, the gentle sound of cloth mingling with the rustling leaves in the night breeze. Shadows cannot survive when the light of wisdom shines brightly upon them, Buddha explained. Do not wrestle with doubt as though it were an enemy, Buddha said, but examine it as a curious child. Ananda nodded faintly, his chest rising with a long breath as the Buddha's words seeped into his heart. The other disciples watched Ananda, their own faces reflecting echoes of his internal battle. Master, Ananda said after a long silence, is it not possible that doubt comes from within us, seeking its own resolution? Buddha replied, indeed, Ananda, doubt does not come to hinder your path, but to sharpen your inquiry. The wisdom in his voice offered reassurance to Ananda's trembling spirit. Through doubt, the heart is tested, its truth clarified, Buddha continued, and understanding strengthened when doubt transforms into knowledge. The Sangha fell silent again, their minds reverberating with the echoes of Buddha's profound insights. Ananda folded his hands before him, his forehead touching the earth in deep reverence. Thank you, Master, Ananda said, his voice steady yet reverent, as though he carried both gratitude and awe in his tone. Buddha's gaze softened further, his voice gentle. Remember, Ananda, doubt is a call to inquiry, not a condemnation of your path. Ananda's face began to reflect quiet acceptance. Walk forward, knowing the truth is not separate from you, Buddha said, his words imbued with profound simplicity. The moon rose above the horizon, casting a soft light over the assembly gathered beneath the ancient bodhi tree. The Sangha sat together in serene contemplation, the whispers of doubt gradually dissolving. In the stillness of the night, Buddha's words hung in the air, resonating with the hearts of all present. Ananda's gaze lifted toward the stars, a quiet determination beginning to replace the uncertainty within him. The disciples remained seated in meditative silence, each heart carrying its own seeds of transformation. Another day, another gathering under the tranquil canopy of the bodhi tree, its leaves rustling softly in the morning breeze. The Sangha assembled in a semicircle, their robes glinting faintly under the gentle touch of sunlight. Ananda sat among them, his heart still restless, though the embers of understanding glimmered faintly within. Buddha surveyed his disciples with his calm, unwavering gaze, his presence anchoring them in the here and now. Let us speak of a man, Buddha began, his voice resonating like the first note of a sacred hymn. The Sangha listened, their minds attuned to his every word. the world outside dissolving into stillness. This man, Buddha said, finds himself standing before a wide river. The other shore beckons, promising freedom from suffering. His voice carried a rhythm that seemed to mirror the flow of the unseen river, guiding the disciples' thoughts toward its imaginary currents. Yet, the man sees no bridge, no boat. Buddha continued, his tone unhurried. The Sangha leaned forward slightly, their collective anticipation like the taut string of a bow. He fears the water, its depth unknown, its flow relentless, Buddha explained, his words weaving a vivid tapestry of imagery. But his desire to cross burns stronger than his fear, he said, pausing to let the significance settle. So, with his own hands, he gathers wood and vines, Buddha continued, his gesture mimicking the act of creation. Piece by piece, he builds a raft, he said, not perfect, but sufficient for his journey across the river. Ananda's brow furrowed in contemplation as he visualized the man's effort, his inner doubts momentarily forgotten. The man sets out on his raft, Buddha said, his voice steady, braving the currents with courage born of necessity. The disciples' breaths were almost audible, their minds absorbed in the unfolding narrative that seemed to mirror their own spiritual quests. He reaches the far shore, Buddha said, his eyes meeting Ananda's. Now, my disciples, Buddha said, his voice gently probing, does the man carry the raft on his back as he walks? The question lingered in the air, its simplicity belying the depth of its significance. No, Master, came the murmured response, a ripple of realization passing through the Sangha like a gentle wave. Indeed, Buddha said, a faint smile gracing his serene face. The raft has fulfilled its purpose. It is left behind. Ananda felt a subtle shift within him, as though the weight of his doubts were beginning to lighten ever so slightly. Buddha's gaze softened as he addressed the assembly once more. Doubt is like that river, Buddha said, his voice imbued with profound clarity. And faith is the raft you build. The Sangha listened with rapt attention, their hearts and minds opening to the wisdom unfolding before them like the petals of a lotus. Faith is not blind belief, Buddha continued, it is the effort of understanding. The courage to tread the path amidst uncertainty, Buddha said, his voice unwavering. And when doubt no longer serves, leave it behind. As the man leaves his raft, Buddha concluded, his words echoing in the silence. Ananda's eyes reflected a glimmer of understanding. Buddha turned to Ananda, his gaze steady yet compassionate, and said, what do you see when you look at your doubt? Ananda hesitated, his mind searching for words that could articulate the tangled emotions within his heart. I see fear, Master, Ananda finally replied, his voice quiet yet resolute. Buddha nodded, his expression one of deep empathy and understanding, and said, fear is the root from which doubt grows. The Sangha stirred softly, the gentle rustle of robes mingling with the quiet sounds of the natural world around them. But fear is not permanent, Buddha continued, his voice reassuring. Fear arises from the unknown, the unfamiliar, Buddha said, but understanding transforms it, as the sun transforms night into day. Ananda felt a faint warmth within, as though the first rays of sunlight were beginning to pierce the fog of his mind. Buddha's words carried a timeless wisdom. Ananda, Buddha said, his gaze direct yet kind. Faith is not the absence of doubt but the willingness to move forward. The Sangha absorbed the teaching in silence, their hearts resonating with the truth of the Master's words. Build your raft, Ananda, Buddha said, and trust the strength within you. Master, Ananda asked after a moment of quiet reflection, what if my raft is not strong enough to carry me across? Buddha's smile deepened, his eyes reflecting the light of understanding that had guided him through his own trials. The strength of the raft lies not in its perfection, Buddha said. It lies in the heart of the one who builds it. the intention guiding each act. Buddha continued. Ananda's chest rose and fell with a deep breath, the weight of his doubts loosening their grip with each passing moment. Even an imperfect raft can carry you, if your heart believes in the crossing, Buddha said. The disciples sat together in meditative silence, the teachings of the Buddha settling within them like seeds awaiting growth. Ananda closed his eyes, a quiet determination growing within him, the image of a raft etched into his mind. The Sangha remained under the bodhi tree as the day unfolded. Another day. Another moment of quiet reflection under the steadfast shade of the bodhi tree. Its branches swaying gently, the disciples gathered once more, their hearts carrying questions, hopes, and the lingering traces of doubt from days prior. Ananda sat among them, his gaze steady yet inward, contemplating the truths shared by the Master. Buddha observed his disciples, his presence a calming force amidst the ebb and flow of their inner struggles. Today, Buddha began, his voice resonating with gentle authority. We speak of the light within, a lamp obscured by the shadow of doubt. The disciples inclined their heads, the weight of his words settling within them. Buddha's gaze rested on Ananda, who met it with quiet determination. Ananda, Buddha said, what stirs your heart as you face the lingering shadow of doubt? Ananda hesitated briefly before replying. Master, I feel both fear and longing, a yearning for clarity, but a fear that I may never find it. The Buddha nodded, his expression serene yet profound. Fear, Ananda, he said, is a shadow cast by the mind, blocking the light of truth within. The Sangha listened intently, their breaths measured, as though their collective heartbeats sought to align with the Master's wisdom. Buddha continued speaking. Imagine a lamp within a darkened room, Buddha said. Its flame flickering, its light barely breaking through the surrounding shadows. The disciples visualized the image, their minds drawn to the simplicity and depth of the analogy unfolding before them. The shadow, Buddha said, does not extinguish the lamp, but it obscures its light. Ananda tilted his head slightly, his brow furrowed in thought. Master, he asked, how do we dispel this shadow that dims our inner lamp? Buddha smiled faintly, his eyes reflecting the compassion that anchored his teachings. By tending to the flame, Ananda, he said, and trusting its power to illuminate. The Sangha remained silent, the profound simplicity of the teaching resonating like a quiet bell in their hearts. Ananda, Buddha continued, doubt is not an enemy, but a messenger, guiding you toward a deeper understanding of yourself. Ananda lowered his gaze briefly, his heart resonating with Buddha's timeless insight. The light within, Buddha said, burns steadily, even when obscured. It cannot be extinguished by doubt, only hidden temporarily. Ananda's chest rose with a deep breath, the weight of his lingering uncertainties beginning to loosen slightly. Buddha's words carried the weight of truth, anchoring the Sangha in the present moment. Let us meditate together, Buddha said, and tend to the light within, allowing it to shine through the shadows of doubt. The disciples closed their eyes, their breaths aligning with the rhythm of the world around them, their minds seeking the stillness within. The Bodhi tree stood witness to their practice. In the silence, Buddha's voice resonated like the calm flow of a river. Bring your focus to the breath, he said, the bridge between the body and the mind, the present and the eternal. Ananda followed the guidance, his attention resting on each inhale and exhale, the world outside fading into stillness. Feel the breath, Buddha continued, as it nourishes the flame within, its light growing stronger with each moment of mindfulness. The Sangha remained immersed in meditation, their collective energy creating a sense of unity that transcended the individuality of their struggles. Buddha's voice anchored them in their practice. Doubt, Buddha said, is like a cloud passing before the sun. It cannot diminish the sun's light, only obscure it briefly. Ananda's mind embraced the analogy, the shadow of his doubt feeling less like a barrier and more like an opportunity. The other disciples, too, sat in quiet contemplation. Welcome the shadow, Buddha said, for it offers contrast, helping you see the light more clearly when it emerges. Ananda's lips curved faintly, the first sign of acceptance softening his face as he absorbed the wisdom shared. The Master's words carried a profound clarity that touched each heart present. After a long silence, Buddha spoke again, his voice softer yet no less resonant. The light within, he said, is your true nature, unshaken by doubt, fear, or uncertainty. The disciples opened their eyes slowly, their gazes meeting Buddha's, the atmosphere charged with a quiet resolve. Ananda felt his heart lighten. Buddha's gaze swept over the Sangha, his presence a steady anchor amidst the shifting currents of their individual journeys. Walk forward, Buddha said, knowing the light within you cannot be extinguished. It is the source of your awakening. The Sangha bowed deeply, their collective reverence a reflection of their shared gratitude. Ananda remained seated for a moment longer, his heart carrying the warmth of the light kindled within him. Buddha's teachings had planted seeds of transformation that would continue to grow. Nurtured by the practice of mindfulness and understanding, the disciples dispersed slowly, each carrying the truth of the day's teaching. The bodhi tree swayed gently in the breeze, its leaves reflecting the light of the setting sun. The shadow of doubt that had lingered within Ananda felt smaller now, less imposing, as though it, too, had been transformed by the light of understanding. The Sangha's journey continued, their path illuminated by truth. The disciples' shoulders relaxed, her mind absorbing the grounding truth. The merchant spoke, his voice steady with growing understanding. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.